Tell me about going to Tijuana and drumming down there. I am fascinated with this idea because
No, I didn't. I didn't drum in Tijuana. I went there, and I got a fake ID, a draft card. I was standing on the corner of whatever it was, Avenue de Revolucion, and hey, you want my girlfriend, my sister, Benny's? Said no, I want a fake ID, and that got me into Shelley's Manhole and bars. I could play in bars, and so then I got fed by Coltrane and Miles and every great jazz musician you've ever heard of. I saw them all live.
Folks, welcome inside the Parisi Palace, high above 3773 East Broadway. This is a live edition of the Jake Feinberg Show. Coming to you on Power Talk. Please go to our website, powertalk.live. Download our free app and stream all of our live local programming, including Solomon on Blast, the Jim Parisi Show, and yours truly, the Jake Feinberg Show. Can't thank you enough for making us part of your day today on this beautiful Sunday of Thanksgiving weekend. And Jake Feinberg would like to give thanks by bringing back a friend of the program, a guy who's always ready and is an artist in his own right, prolific artist, blazing his own trail, Justin Kreutzmann. Welcome back to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Hey, Jake, how you doing?
Good to hear you, man.
Good to hear you. Was that the familiar strains of John Densmore I heard
That was from my radio interview with Dens from, I don't know, maybe 2013. And I was like listening to it and I said, Tijuana, I'm like, I wonder if any of that material is being covered. Well, I guess first off, I just want an update on the doc, and then if you explored any of that early Densmore. I know this was more of a tribute to Manzarek, but I just wanted to know where that was at.
The doc is coming along well. Fingers crossed, toes crossed, knock on anything that looks wooden. Should be out in June. It's called Break On Through, a celebration of Ray Manzarek and the Doors.
I mean, can you talk about what has been inspiring and also trying, and what has been most inspiring about the doc? I mean, what are you trying to, because like you said before in our first interview, there have been a lot of docs made on the Doors.
Well, it's all inspiring. I like, millions of others, as a big Doors fan, always have been a big Doors fan. So it was like getting to explore the archives of one of your favorite band. And, I realize that there's probably a lot of deadheads listening. So just imagine being able to sort of go through and have somebody say, yeah, do you want to pull that drive? That's got all our 16-millimeter footage from 1968. So, that's pretty inspiring, and it's kind of fun to find stuff, little nuggets of gold that haven't been used in other projects, or find like iconic shots of Jim Morrison in the band that you maybe use a little bit later than the shot that everyone's really familiar with. Because I always love that when you see something and it's right after the famous photo of Sgt. Pepper or the next take in a series, and I always love that kind of stuff. So it's just been it's really just it's all been inspiring.
Johnny and I had a great time because he's the jazz head and grew up listening and going to the clubs, as you know. But Krieger, man, is he an active member of this? Because I cannot get to that cat. Period. What is his?
Yeah, Robbie's right there in the trenches. It's really great. Unfortunately, it's just he and John now. So every decision and every creative thing we do has to go by those two guys. And John and I really were riding co-pilot a lot on this. And Robbie comes in and gives his 2 cents, and he's always got these great ideas. And once you sort of get to know him, he's got this really, really sly sense of humor, and they still tell me funny stories about the Grateful Dead, from back in the day, and they're really down-to-earth, cool guys, and you kind of forget. We went out to lunch, and you sort of forget when somebody comes over and goes, "Wow, you're sitting with the Doors." I'm like, "Oh yeah, wow, that is pretty cool." But they don't have that air about them. They're just they're musicians first and cool guys, and it's been a joy to work with them. I hope to do some more stuff.
How do you, as a producer, director, how do you handle egos like that? Even though they've known each other for years, there's a lot of water under the bridge. Without going into specific things that you have to, how do you nuance it, knowing John is one personality like Robbie's more of obviously sly. I mean, I'm going to get to the cat eventually, but I mean, like how do you, as a independent filmmaker, get them on the same page when things might be going off the rails?
You let them discuss amongst themselves and let them decide how they want to approach certain subjects and what they want to show and what they don't really want to talk about, and it helps keep focus because as a Doors fan, you want to hear all the stories and you want to hear everything that Jim Morrison ever did, and but this was about Ray, so we had a very specific focus, and that really helped because it wasn't. It's John and Robbie in tribute to their fallen partners. So that kind of really kept the focus where it should be. And like I said, they, as I know with the Grateful Dead, these guys have been having the same discussion since 1965. So it's best to let them work it out. And then when a decision has been made, I come in, because you try to get in the middle of that, you're just asking for heartache and tears.
Talking to Justin Kreutzmann here on the Jake Feinberg Show. What could you share a story with the audience about their recollection of Warlocks / Grateful Dead?
Well, what's funny, and I just talked to my dad on the road, and I reminded him he didn't remember this story, but apparently there was some famous incident at the Santa Barbara Bowl with where the Grateful Dead were opening up for the Doors, and I think they were supposed to do a full tour together. And the Doors had to play like a high school, like earlier in the afternoon, and they didn't have their equipment. And they're like, yeah, the Grateful Dead, they're cool. They're hippies from San Francisco. They'll let us use their gear. And so when the Doors got to the Santa Barbara Bowl, apparently somebody in the Dead was like, yeah, not a chance. So they ended up playing through like these little 12-inch speakers. And I swear to God, when Ray came to TRI, the first thing he said to Weir was, "You didn't let us use your gear, man." Like they're still it's still a bone of contention. So I brought it up to my dad, and he was so embarrassed. He's like, "Oh my God, we would have let them use your gear. Garcia would have let somebody use his amp. He wouldn't have cared." He's like, "Oh," he was totally embarrassed. But it's like literally the same. The same discussion's been going on since 1968. So it's all it's funny to hear those stories. Somebody fresh apparently.
Well, I just want to be clear. You said Ray went to TRI. Did Ray Manzarek? Is that who you meant?
Yeah. He that's how I got involved in this Doors project. It was 2012.
Yeah.
And they were releasing the Doors live at the Hollywood Bowl, and Ray lived up in Northern California, so he came to TRI, and we did a live webcast for Eagle Rock Entertainment. And Ben Fong Torres hosted it, so we filmed him, in the studio, and I cut some stuff because he had some really nice moments talking about Jim and the band, of course, and it turned out really well. And I cut a little piece after Ray died to post on the TRI's website, and the Doors management asked if they could show it at Ray's funeral, which I thought was very sweet. So that kind of got me inside the Doors world, and we sort of took it further into this project. But the funny part is if you read Ray's book and he talks about the Santa Barbara Bowl, he's just saying how like Pigpen wouldn't let him use his organ even though they had the same kind of organ.
Wow.
And so we have Pigpen's organ up at TRI, so I set it up right in the shot with Ray, and I'm like, Ray, look, that's Pigpen's organ. So he finally got a chance moment with the organ.
Oh, that's I just, for my own, I get off on the solo projects that these guys did post Morrison, the Butts Band being one. But does the doc at all go into Manzarek did 2 seminal solo albums. I know they weren't necessarily with Robbie and John, but the Golden Scarab, and then there's something about rock and roll. Anything touch on the solo Manzarek career?
Not on this project. I think that's going to be for what'll probably be a Ray Manzarek documentary, which I'm sure will happen sometime in life. But because this is all based around the tribute show we did at the Fonda, and all the cover songs everybody did were all Doors songs, so it was kind of the Doors' greatest hits that you know and love. So we just kind of kept it that. And like I said, it's a tribute to Ray based on a live concert, but because I find concert films are usually so boring, I snuck some documentary stuff in there just to give you something to think about and tie it all in with these younger musicians playing the songs. But no, it's basically John and Robbie and the Doors catalog.
Well, keep me in the loop because I would love to come out for, if it's going to be in June, I'd love to come out for a screening or something along those lines. It would be a big deal.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we're actually, I can't say too much, but we're in talks to actually maybe premiere it somewhere closer to your coast. So.
Well, I'm only in Tucson, so if you're going to be if you're down in if you're in Arizona, I'm closer to you than you think. But
we're not planning anything in Tucson, but you're close enough.
I wanted. This has been in my head. Did you? I know you were super tight with. Now I can't remember his first name, but Coppola's son. Gio Coppola. I wanted to ask you about any recollection you have of Francis Ford Coppola and the Apocalypse Now sessions, or anything that might have, not just Gio, but what Coppola being around the Grateful Dead and your father, what seminally is still in your mind? What do you still put into your art that you can attribute to learning from him? Because when I talk to cats that played percussion on those things, he was sleeping on the couches there. People would wake up at 3. People would wake up at 3 in the morning and start recording. Rico talked about that. They all were having a ball. I'm like, Justin was just probably old enough to get a taste of that. So can you paint the picture of any of the recollection of Apocalypse?
Yeah, well, Apocalypse is everything to me, because Apocalypse is the reason that I became a filmmaker. I was right in that age. I think it was 6 or 7 when Francis first came around and they started doing the percussion. And I remember going out to Mickey Hart's ranch with my dad and Phil Lesh and Erto and
Jim Lovelace, Rico.
I'm never going to remember all the names, but that crew, that Mickey Hart, Diga kind of crew of folks.
Oh, yeah.
And Francis brought, for you older folks, Francis brought Betamax copies of the work in progress, and it was the 6-hour version of Apocalypse. And it had no music on it, and he sat with the band and watched the entire film and discussed the film in terms of what everything meant in terms of rhythm, like what the jungle is doing here and what this character should be doing, and maybe there should be some timpani for this, And I'm like 6 or 7, so like 90% of it's way over my head, but it was so fascinating. And then you're watching this like amazing film, and because I had the kind of parents, they let me watch that kind of film when I'm 6 or 7, but it just inspired me. And then I literally think the next week my dad bought me a Super 8 camera, and I just started making home movies. But it was having Francis around and the family, because it wasn't just Francis. It was like Eleanor and Roman and Sophia and Gio, and like he's so about family, and you just were immersed. And he'd go up to his house and he'd make pizza for people while talking about Godfather 2, and you're just like, wow.
Was it more
really cool?
No, so you were actually really young. But can you talk about the idea? It's so important. Whether or not they watched the full 6 hours or not, what was the nexus? What was the thing there? Was it just the idea of saying, this is what people are going to be seeing visually, and this is the vibe that I want to create? Is that what really was kind of the
Yeah, it was just in the way like every character has his own theme. Everything in the movie had its own percussive moment, or had what he was hoping to achieve. And in some cases, like we all know, the beam, which is now near and dear to everybody's heart, was made just for the napalm scene, because Mickey couldn't find anything that would create the sound that Francis described. You should have seen Hart and Coppola. Those two guys like going at it, trying to like make this movie. It was really entertaining to watch, just those two energies, just like Mickey Hart in his younger days and Francis in his younger days, just awe-inspiring.
I just want to ask you point blank. Because I continue to just listen to audience recordings from the early 80s, mainly before before Touch of Grey. And I oftentimes really love the Rhythm Devils. And I hear all this, I hear Mickey playing a lot of accentuated stuff. And I say to myself, how did your dad not get bothered by that? How did he just play? You know what I'm saying? Like to me, it's like, or I guess what I'm trying to say is, how did
Why would he be bothered by it? I mean, what was bothering? I mean,
well,
you know?
some of it was just like additional language that was just, it could be, you know, essentially if he's trying to get into if Billy's just trying to keep the thing together because he doesn't have a bass player who's a traditional rhythm player, and then he's got a percussionist who's also soloing. I don't know how he did it. And what I'm saying is, it never, like Healy told me in our third interview, Healy had some very strong comments that were revelatory to me, but he said one thing about Billy Kreutzmann is the guy doesn't wake up every day wanting to figure out how to scam the world, and he also wakes up every day happy and ready to make music. And sometimes I listen to all I hear is Mickey's pattering, and I say, boy, I'm amazed that I'm sure they had their moments, but I often marvel at how he was able to just focus on his own time to make it, because it would have been a mess. Someone wrote a quote, put up a post the other day on one of my forums saying, "Who's the only band member that couldn't be replaced in the Dead?" I mean, it's Billy.
Well, you know, everybody just followed their bliss, and you know, Dad did his thing, Mickey did his thing, Phil did his thing, and you know, if it had been an overriding painful experience, I don't see how it could have lasted that long. And when it was great, I'm sure everybody was like, this is why we do it. And on nights when it wasn't, I'm sure everyone was thinking like, oh my God, what have I done with my life? But I think there's probably more like, oh my God, this is why we do it. And everybody got to do their thing. Like Mickey's a genius, and he has his ideas and you know, the percussion and what he knows about the history and the instruments he brings to stuff, and he creates this really fun playground. And you know, and Dad's into it, he'll play along with it, and as you see, and then sometimes he jumps off the stage and lets Mickey have his moment, and Mickey does his thing, and you know, it's like the Grateful Dead weren't really, you know, they weren't music cops, so everybody got to do what they wanted to do. And I remember more just being turned on, like Mickey bringing, you know, instruments over to the house that, you know, were made in like the 18th century by somebody out in the desert, and you know, here, check this out, it makes this kind of sound, and it's like, cool, let's see how it sounds on Johnny B. Good, you know, that kind of thing.
Well, and I think also it's respect. They had mutual respect for each other. But you know, as I've gone on this journey since the last time we talked, I've realized something else. Not Justin Kreutzmann is not just a prodigious filmmaker, doc maker, but actually a talent scout as well. I wanted to play this clip for you. This happened completely serendipitously, and then we'll come back and break it down.
Okay.
So when I was in London, I was managed by Trinifold, who managed The Who. And when I was there, Justin Kreutzmann, who's Bill Kreutzmann's son.
No, I interviewed Justin last year. Yeah, I know him well.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when I was there, Justin was in town with Chris McCutcheon, who ran TRI at the time, and so my managers were like, "Come check out this new artist." And they looked me up online and saw this video when I was promoting my first record. Because of my Grateful Dead background, I did when I was doing promotion, Relics was one of the stops on the promotional tour, and I did Friend of the Devil. And so Justin and Chris saw that. They're like, "Oh my God, she's ahead." So they came to my show and they're like, "Friend of the Devil." And I'm like, "Who are these people?" Like, and so I met them I think I was doing a show at Water Rats in London. And we were talking, and they're like, "Bob would really love you." I'm like, "Okay, whatever." And they're like, "No, seriously, we're going to send this to Bob, this video." I'm like, "Okay." And so they told Bob about me, and Bob said, "I really like her, like, let's get her to do a We're Here." So they invited me to TRI, and I did a We're Here, and that's when I met Kimmock, and I met Dave Schools and Jay Lane and those guys, and they made me a TRI All-Star that day. That show was great, and it's still online. It was a really great.
All right, Mr. Kreutzmann, who is that?
So what you're saying is we ruined Leslie's life, and like it's never been the same since.
I think
the worst thing that ever happened was she should have never gotten involved with all these ne'er-do-well Grateful Dead type people. I get it. I get where you're coming
That's
from.
right. You ruined. I guess that my other. So since when? I mean, have you always, truthfully, because you were fully immersed in the scene and loved the music and respected it, how do you, aside from, how do you recognize ahead? I mean, have you done other talent scout missions? This was a revelation.
Well. First of all, we were there doing business with the Who, and Leslie was like probably the only person they knew that knew who the Grateful Dead were in London at the time. So it wasn't a huge stretch, and she happened to be playing while like the last night we were in London. And she was really talented and really cool, and she was coming back to the States. So we're like, yeah, we're doing this crazy show. We're here. Yeah, no, I definitely don't go out and seek out talent. There's people far better than me, but just, I don't even think she did Friend of the Devil that night. I think we'd seen the video, and then she did all her own original material. So we were like, oh, great. This is, she's talented, and obviously the stuff we were doing at TRI on We're Here was acoustic based, so it was pretty perfect to just put her with Weir. I was really happy that she met Kimmock in schools, and it progressed. So yeah, in fact, I just saw Leslie in Memphis recently for a festival out there, and so she's still doing well, and it's always great to see her.
I mean, just can you talk about your own, as objectively as possible, the lineage of this Dead and Company situation? Because again, I'm in a bit of a loop. I've never seen the band. I never, I really didn't get into them until after they had dissolved as an original band. What are your thoughts on the music of Dead and Company as it relates to like that? I think I know the festival you're talking about. It was like all the cats were there, and there's this whole new generation, and the lineage needs to go on. And I think people think it's great that Bobby and the Rhythm Devils are going out. I guess in my mind, I just say, I don't know. I'm not really sure what I just want to get your opinion on Dead and Company. What is it about? Because I'm a little bit conflicted about whether it's a money grab or not.
Well, Dead and Company, I like, because obviously I like and love all the people in the band.
Yeah, right. I know that.
I've gotten to know John really well, and he is like a super nice guy who's a super talented guy. I think everybody has the right to go out and do whatever they want, and it's great that Phil and his family are playing, and it's a chance to hear these songs live, and there's all these other people covering Grateful Dead that and it's you have the tapes and you have the videos and you have the records, so you can always put on. Calling it the real thing makes it sound like it's more important, but you always have the Grateful Dead. So, like, to me, everybody's going to go out and play anyway. So this is just a forum where they can all get together and play nice big venues. And I think the music's worthwhile because I think it's different. I think the way Phil interprets songs is different, and that's cool. And the way Dead and Company interpret the songs, that's cool. And I don't know. I just think it's like I said, it's a way for people to still hear the music live, and someday, it'll all be people who weren't in the Grateful Dead doing Grateful Dead songs. It's a chance to hear people who created it still interpreting it. That's very diplomatic, but no, I generally
it's like I'm just saying, like, and I'm not trying to take. I mean, again, I don't know who could fill the shoes of. What about? Explain to me in this. Again, we're essentially the same age, but as we move forward, our kids, are they going to know? Why are they going to understand that Jerry Garcia was a major cog in the Grateful Dead and not John Mayer?
Well, I think they're just. For instance, yesterday we were looking for some cool cartoons to show. I have a 7-year-old daughter, Olivia, and a 3-year-old son named Lucas, and we were looking for cartoons to watch. And I'm like, hey, have you ever seen Grandpa's cartoon? So I put on the opening of the Grateful Dead movie, and so they watched it, and they get that that's Uncle Jerry who's not here anymore, and it's different than when they go see Grandpa now, but it's all music to them, and I think it's just to them it's different interpretations, and as they get older, they will see not just his significance in the band, but understand just what a cool guy he was. Like they can be old enough to understand his interviews or hear different recordings, and so it was fun to watch Grateful Dead cartoons, and like to them, it's sort of all one big thing. And I think Jerry is Jerry, and he stands out on his own. The more you investigate, I think it'll just be kind of apparent not only what he brought to the Grateful Dead, but just what he brought to life. And I think that it's really, that's where they'll see his significance in it all and understand that, Dead and Company is an interpretation of what went before, trying to make it something different, yet pay homage to what it used to be. And I mean, that's what I hope. It seems to be.
Absolutely. No, and I want you to talk about the band that, again, I basically, live in my bubble and do my thing, but the band that I kind of like, the route that they're taking as it relates to the venues they choose, the travel that they do, and their adherence to authentic spiritual music as it relates to collective consciousness is the Chris Robinson Brotherhood. And I wanted, and so that's, and I understand that your dad and the whole band pretty much, including O'Teal and John, I mean, they've done those, they've put in their time, I mean, they've done those tours and barns and sheds, and they've stayed in the hotels and things like that. But can you just talk about, are you a CRB fan? And also, as far as Neil Casal is concerned, how he has grown as a musician, because it seems to me that he is, just hearing this stuff, he's really expanding his vocabulary as an instrumentalist.
Maybe. Well, obviously, I knew Chris back in the Black Crowes days. I remember the Crowes opened for the Dead in, what was it, 95 or something like that? And I got to know him back in that era. And then I got to know Chris because he was in our Move Me Brightly, TRI Jerry Garcia's 70th birthday show. And my wife is like the biggest Ryan Adams fan. And so
that's fantastic. All right, you go ahead.
Yeah, and so somebody suggested, maybe Neil would want to be the guitar player for Move Me Brightly. So we called him up, and he was game, and so I got to know him, and he had all this stuff in him. Like, he's a Dead fan, he'd been to the shows, did the listening. So I mean, this wasn't like, everything is a learning curve, but he already had that in him. It just probably wasn't real reflective maybe when you listened to Ryan Adams and the Cardinals. But no, he jumped right in and he learned the parts, and he's just a really good guy. And that's what led to we were doing the Bob Weir movie, and we needed a musical director to sort of tie everything together. And so, again, I called Neil, and he just did this amazing job, which led to Fare Thee Well. So he's become a really good friend. And every time I go see, the Chris Robinson Brotherhood, it's just I hear Neil, expanding but being himself. Like the minute I asked him to do Grateful Dead kind of stuff, he was right there. He already, like I said, he already had it in him.
Absolutely. He just to me it seems like he's being himself, and I think that's what that was the threshold for anybody in the Grateful Dead, was you had to be yourself. But before I want to play this audio clip for you, and I hope if children are listening, I hope they can close their ears momentarily, and then we'll come back and talk about it.
Okay.
Pretty good, huh? Okay. It looks like I might have to do it. Here's a little song about something I did. A little song about me. A song about where I grew up. Some place that maybe taught me to be free. So we get started. Here we go. This is hard to do, You guys sure you paid enough money for this? You ready? Okay, I want you to repeat after me. I was born in a whorehouse, and I was raised as a slave, thugging and fighting, still all I prayed to. Born in a whorehouse, raised as a slave, and thugging and fighting, still all I pray. So knocking out windows and kicking them doors, still calling women chicken shit whores. So I was born in a whole house. And raised as a slave. Alex works for me sometimes. Playing the drums, that's really, really what I crave. That's the end of my rave.
Well, I have to believe you're now playing that for Olivia, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, no, she's learning all the lyrics right now as we speak. They're going to come out with the children's edition. Yeah, no, Dad, Levon Helm, Dad was not. I will have to put it that way.
Well, no, but
yes.
Have you heard? I mean, because this was Go Ahead Halloween '86.
Yeah, I was there.
You were. It was Graffiti's in Pittsburgh.
I thought you were playing the Halloween night from Passaic. That's what it sounds like to me.
Oh, you know what? Justin Kreutzmann, always ahead of the beat. You're right.
Well, trust me, this didn't happen a lot. Yeah, no, that's the Hot Tuna was opening up, and we were in New York on Halloween. And funny enough, speaking of the Coppolas, we were at the Coppolas, Sherry Netherland, trying to get them to come to this show, which they're like, we have other plans. So we ended up going over to New Jersey. Everybody's obviously having a really good time, and the whole tour, they're always like, let Bill sing, obviously take on Let Phil sing, and as Deadhead should learn, you ask for something, you may just get it, so be warned. And I remember Dad started to do that, and Brent was standing there, so I pushed Brent on the drums, because I'm just like, dude, you got to go out and help him. So that's actually Brent Midland on drums.
Hold on, we've got to clear this up because I think it's Litcherwood on drums because Brent's playing organ there, and right.
No. Dad was sitting at the organ.
Dad was at the organ. I mean, okay, so this is important because right after we didn't play this part of it, but right after he finished, and I call that Billy's rave, but he said, Litcherwood said to the audience, and you're right, it's Passaic. I'm so glad you cleared that up. That he said, folks, we've been waiting. You've been waiting all tour for that, and it's the first time that that was the first time he actually sang on that tour. That was to close it out.
No, I just remember because I was standing there. Alex may have come down and sat next to him, but Brent was on drums, and then it's a magic moment that I'm sure Dad wishes would go away forever.
Well, I'm just wondering that when I talked to Shelley, she said that actually her and your dad, when you guys lived in kind of an interesting place in San Rafael, that they did try to write lyrics to a song once or twice. I mean, did your dad ever try to compose any songs himself?
None that the world will ever be shown. Let's put it that way.
Shown or heard, yeah.
I think their lyric attempts probably it's probably just one of those dreams that was just a little out of reach. Let's just say I don't think you'll ever catch a Billy Kreutzmann, co-write that's not musical. I don't think he was competing for Robert Hunter's job.
and you were on tour at that. I mean, would you say that was? Jerry was just getting healthier at that point, but was that that was?
Yeah.
I mean, all those guys. Go ahead.
No. That was just a go-ahead tour. Obviously, when Jerry was still recovering from the coma, I was back east working at the Smithsonian, and Go-Ahead came through and sort of did the Eastern Seaboard, and that was so I would just pop out and catch some shows. But yeah, no, I didn't. It wasn't like I didn't have to go on every tour. I didn't need to do the Go-Ahead van tour of Holiday Inn. So
I just love the fact that you were. I mean, I got to be honest. All those guys, I talk with them all the time. Morgan, Cortez, Alex. What a classic group of guys. I'm sure it's a little bit harrowing to go back and listen to something like that, but it was I get more and more respect for them every time. But just before I let you go,
well, I got a little piece of trivia for you. Then actually,
yeah.
In 1986. We did a music video that was supposed to be for a guy named Kevin Russell, who had been in the Kreutzmann Margan band. Kevin's son got sick, or maybe it was his daughter. But anyway, Kevin's child got sick. So Dad called Brent Midland. Brent came in with a song, and we got Jerry Cortez, David Morgan, my dad, and Brent, and they did a song called Nobodies that Gio Coppola and I directed in March of 1986, which was about 2 months before Gio was killed in a boating accident. So the band that they formed to do the music video then became Go Ahead, and they got Alex.
Well, and this is one of those things where you're submerged in so much work all the time. We vetted that in part one. I opened our first interview with that track, Nobodies, and that is an amazing. That was your first piece of work.
Yeah, that was I call that the first official, like real video. I've got the 1-inch masters of that. I should transfer it to make it, not that it's the best thing ever in the world, but just to have it in honor of Gio and Brent.
Before, can you just talk before I let you go about your. I would love to go fishing with your dad, or even just do an interview with him. But tell me about your other projects that other irons that you have in the fire, or anything that you can talk to the audience about what you're working on.
Well, it's a shift of gears, but I've been working with a band called Stone Temple Pilots.
Oh wow!
And we just put out 2 videos of their new singer at the Troubadour, which I directed. And we got some plans for the future. That's about all I can say. But Stone Temple Pilots are a band that I just loved. Used to buy all their records in the 90s. And for me, it's great to work on projects with something that isn't Grateful Dead, just to sort of so people don't think I get every single job through nepotism. I actually do get a few on my own.
I want to. Thank you for bringing that up, because I interviewed Graham Lesh, and he's just starting his. He's getting off the ground, and I can tell inside that he is burning to carve his own path away from his dad's legacy. And I just want,
of course.
And I want you to talk about that evolution for you. You're on your way, but is it still something? I mean, you said nepotism. I mean, people can look at your credits and know that you've been doing stuff on your own, but how important is it? How much did that bother you at one time? And how have you just basically said, I'm Justin Kreutzmann, I have my own skills, and I'm going to kick ass?
It's never bothered me in the least. I mean, I now have a credit co-producing a film with Martin Scorsese. My first home video went to #1 on the Billboard charts when I was 17. So these are stuff that it's a privilege, and I just think that if you could take advantage of it and rise to doing your own thing. But I never. I always want, and also they're always cool projects. It's cool working on Grateful Dead stuff. It's fun. I have such a close-up perspective of it all that I feel other people should be doing Grateful Dead stuff to give it some perspective. But again, you always want to be involved because you want it done right, and you want the quality control to be great, and they're always like Long Strange Trip and Bob Weir's movie. It's always super cool projects. But branching out is important to you. I mean, doing Stone Temple. Oh, of course. Yeah. Of course, and that's just it's projects and bands that I like to work with. I like to work with my dad's band, but I also like to work with a lot of other bands that do different kinds of rock music. Well, let's just stay in touch, man. Much love to you, because I really would if when the Doors thing comes out, I'd love to drive out to LA and do some social media work if that works into your plans. It would be really a ball. For sure, man. Yeah, man. For sure. And and much love to you and your family and your wife, and happy and healthy holidays. And you tell your dad, one of these days we'll have to catch a hang. Yeah, well, maybe we'll catch him. He's coming out here to visit us after the tour, so maybe while he's visiting the grandkids, we'll get him on the phone for you. Thank you, Justin. Much love to you, man. Happy Thanksgiving. All right, Jake. Take it easy, man. Later, dude. Bye. Bye.